Hi, it's Mike at Cleveland Aircraft Tool. I'm here this morning to talk to you about pneumatic squeezers. There's some commonly misunderstood things about squeezers and some confusing things about what you need and what you don't need. So I'll get right into it. This is an example of the pneumatic squeezer, and it squeezes rivets, and it also squeezes dimples. Now, most people think of it as a rivet squeezer, but I'd like you to think of it more as a dimpling tool, because you use it way more for dimpling than you do for squeezing. So on this example practice project here, you can see that along an edge you can squeeze all of those rivets. You can go along. The yoke gets into the tight space there and can squeeze the rivet much more controllably and predictably than using a rivet gun. However, all of the substructure of the airplane can be done with the squeezer. So you can squeeze dimples into the entire substructure. So every rivet, almost every rivet on the airplane, half of it is done with the squeezer, and the other half is done with the C-frame for the large sheets where you can't get the squeezer into. So think of it more as a dimpling squeezer than a rivet squeezer. It's a dimpling squeezer that you can also rivet with. Okay, so let me switch cameras here, and I'm going to give you a little tour of some pieces that we have here. So this is the squeezer body right here. These are different rams. These are different flat sets and cup sets that you use for the squeezer. And I'll get into why there's so many different pieces and how they're used here in just a second. But let's start with the squeezer body itself. So we sell the squeezer body with different yokes. There's different shapes of yokes that you can get for different applications. The 3-inch yoke is the most common, and then the others are less used. And I have some other videos on choosing the right yokes and where you use different yokes. So you can check those out. The 3-inch yoke is the most common. So we sell this in a couple different ways. We sell it as a squeezer kit, and we sell it as the body only, and then you can choose the yoke or yokes that you want. And the reason I'm pointing that out is a couple different things. First of all, the squeezers that you get from most other places will come with what's called a fixed ram. This is not adjustable. It's a given length here, and there's two different rams that are commonly used for two different yoke thicknesses. And by yoke thickness, I'm talking about the thickness of this portion right here that the ram goes through. So this is a 1-inch thick base. There's also a 1 1/4 inch thick base. So depending on which one of those you have, depends on which one of these you need. So if you're ordering a body only, you will get the standard short fixed set holder, and that's what you get from most other companies as well. So this will go into the squeezer. That's what actuates up and down to squeeze your rivets. And because that is fixed, you will need to adjust the length of your tooling by using the different lengths of sets. And each one of these is a set. This is a set. It's to set rivets. That's another commonly misunderstood point of dialogue. So this is one cup set. This is another cup set. This is not a set. Technically, I suppose it would be a set of sets. But each individual is a set because it's used to set rivets. So let's see, where do I go from here? So there's also an adjustable set that has a threaded portion that you can make the set longer or shorter. I'm sorry, I used the wrong term. I said set too many times. You can make the ram longer or shorter by rotating it in and out. So this is a threaded piece. This eliminates the need for a lot of these. So in our kit that we sell, anytime you buy a squeezer kit from us, we automatically put this in. It's a little bit more expensive than all the parts added up, but not much. And the ease of use is incredible. So maybe you've bought you're watching this video and you've bought a used squeezer or a borrowed one or something. The way you can tell if it's adjustable, because both will rotate in there, the way you can tell if it's adjustable is if it has flats on the end of the ram. So you can squeeze the tool and rotate it here and see if there's any flats. If it has flats on it, it's adjustable up and down. Okay, the reason for adjusting. So let me get into the instructions that we send along with the kit. And these are downloadable if you bought a used one or made the mistake of buying it from someone else. We can get these for you. So the first page that comes with that is the wrong camera. There we go. Maybe? I thought I had this figured out. There we go. The first page that comes with the squeezer is a set of instructions. And the first thing it says is, don't squeeze your finger. It puts out 3,000 pounds of force at the end of the ram, which is like parking your car on top of your finger. So keep your fingers out of there. Whenever you adjust it, unlike what I just did, unplug the air from it so that you don't get your fingers in there. So never change the dies when it's connected to air. And there is a safety feature on the tool. You'll see here. What that does is it makes you push up on the lever for the ram before you can rotate it in. So that has an Allen screw and you can adjust it up, but then if anything touches the trigger, it will actuate. So you don't want to adjust that. And the next most important thing that a lot of people don't understand is you never put air tool in this, or air tool oil in this tool. So most air tools, you would put a couple drops of air tool oil in the inlet, plug the air back on, and then that oils the tool. This tool has, let me switch to this parts diagram here. This tool has a leather piston here that goes up and down in the cylinder. That piston has a grease on it. So if you were to put air tool oil in this, it dilutes that grease and then will lose pressure over time. So this is the only air tool that I know of other than paint guns that you don't put any oil in. Never oil this tool. Permanently greased, so that's not a problem. Okay, so the next thing that people don't understand often is there is a ramp on the end of this piston that goes up and down. There's a ramp, or I call it a ramp, so that has a couple different angles on that. And that ramp pushes on a cam, which is shown here. So when you actuate the tool, the first part of that ramp is to really get a lot of motion and to get that ram up to where you're going to work. And then the angle changes so that you get more mechanical advantage. And so as you squeeze this, the first part comes up fairly quickly to the rivet, and then the second one, the last 3/16 of an inch, is what develops all the power. So I'm holding it here so I can put my finger up here to show you. The last 3/16 is the only place that you're going to get power out of the squeezer. Before that, it's just the motion to get it up to where the rivet or where the dimple, where the work's going to be happening. So it's very important that you get this gap set up correctly if you want to be able to use the power of the squeezer. Very, very common question for us. High percentage of the time that people buy squeezers even will call and say, I got this squeezer and it won't squeeze rivets. So we have some instructions on that online as well. But the tendency when it won't squeeze rivets is to tighten this up, to make the gap less so that it will squeeze. That's exactly the opposite of what you want to do. It's counterintuitive. So you want to increase that gap here so that the ram will travel further and develop power. I hope I did that explanation well, but so it's the reason I'm explaining this is it's important that you get that gap set correctly, or it will not develop the power. So get this out of the way. So in doing that now, we need to set this gap. And that's the difference between the fixed set holder and the adjustable set holder. With the adjustable set holder, you can just rotate it to adjust, as I've been doing, up and down, and that changes your gap. Oh, I did want to show one more thing that comes with. Well, there is a table that comes with this that has rivet lengths and then mathematically correct gap to set this up. So you can measure it with a caliper or with a ruler to see if you're about right for, if you're squeezing a 4-3 rivet, you can see what that gap is supposed to be. So then we have cup sets and we have flat sets. You use 2 flat sets for setting flush rivets. You use a cup and a flat to set the universal head rivets. The reason that we have 2 different lengths here of cup sets, with the pneumatic squeezer, again, it's limited in travel. So to do a lot of the longer rivets, you need to have as much travel as possible, which necessitates using a thinner set. So this is an 1/8-inch thick cup set. And again, if you buy the squeezer kit from us, this is what we supply so that you can get those long 1/8-inch rivets. More commonly in the market, you'll see 1/4-inch long flat sets. So again, if it gives you an extra 1/8 of an inch length rivet capacity if you use a short cup set. Okay. So then again, there's 8 different lengths of flat sets that we sell, plus the one for doing flush riveting. And the reason that we've sold those is traditionally, before adjustable rams were made, you had this fixed set. So to set this up, then you would take, let's say you're doing a flush rivet, and it's about, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch long or so. So you would pick your dies. I'm just going to pretend like the set that's in there is a fixed set. You would pick your dies, or your flat sets, and you would set them up. You would squeeze, and you would look at that gap. And if that gap is, if it's a -3 rivet, let's say the gap is about 3/8 of an inch, and you need it a little bit less than that. Then what you do is you come back and you take the flat set out and you put in shim washers. And we sell these shim washers in a set of 6 that comes with 3 different sizes, and I don't recall exactly the thicknesses, but you can adjust them to about 5/1000ths of an inch with these shim washers. So you put the shim washers in, you put your set back in, you look at your gap and you go, yeah, that looks about right. I'm going to try a rivet. So then you squeeze a rivet and you see if it's right or not. So if you went to squeeze the rivet and it came up to the rivet but didn't crush it, you have to take thickness out of here. You have to make the gap wider so that it gets to that power portion of the cam and will actually squeeze the rivet. If it's not squeezed enough, then you add more shim washers to it. So that's the way we built our RV4 back in the late 80s, and it was the common way for 50 years until these adjustable sets came out. So as you're thinking about the fixed set versus the adjustable set, you can see that it's much, much quicker to just rotate that ram than it is to mess around trying to figure out which washers you need and which flat sets you need. So again, if you do have a squeezer with the fixed ram, or decide you're gonna, let's say you bought our kit and decided you didn't want to have the adjustable ram, then we could put that back in there. It's a little bit cheaper, like I said. But then you need all 8 flat sets, and you need the shim washers to go with them. If you have the adjustable set, all you need is the flush set for flush rivets, and then let's see, I think it's the number with the pneumatic squeezers, the number 2 and the number 4 cup sets we send it with, and then the thin flat set. So you eliminate the need for all the other lengths of tooling to go with the squeezer. So I hope I did that justice in describing that. And I described how you set it up for squeezing rivets, but I didn't touch on how you set it up for dimple dies. And really that's quite easy. All you do for dimple dies is put the male die and the female die in the tool, and then put your air on, actuate it, and then you just with this adjustable ram, you just rotate it up until they touch with no material in between, until they're tight, and it won't rotate anymore. That's set up correctly for dimpling. If you're going to do that with the fixed set holder, you would do the same thing. You put the fixed set holder in, you put the male and female dimple dies in, squeeze it, see how much gap there is, and then add that many washers to close that gap up. So setting it up for dimpling is quite easy. One more thing that people will sometimes get confused is how this adjustable ram goes into the squeezer. So you see the cam there that runs up and down. That's on the opposite side of the trigger. This particular adjustable set holder can only go in one way. We sometimes sell a different one that we make in-house. This one's made by Bob Avery at Avery Tools. So this is a forged piece so that it has to go in one direction. Ours you can actually get in exactly backwards. There's a kind of a tapered side that goes toward the center of the squeezer. Ours, you can get in backwards, and then if you go to put the yoke on, the pins will not go through. So if you are installing your adjustable set holder and you can't get the pins to go through the yoke, that's what's wrong. Just take the set holder out, turn it 180 degrees, and put it back in. Finally, occasionally we get people that will buy either imported squeezers because they look exactly the same and they're cheaper. Why not, right? Or rebuilt or used, just used up squeezers. And so I wanted to do a little demonstration on the trigger here. I'm taking the safety off by pushing up and then just squeezing slightly. As you do that, you'll hear the air start to hiss, and then as you give it more pressure, you'll see the ram start coming up. So that's should be very controllable up and down. You should be able to come right up to the rivet and get everything, set exactly the way you want it before you squeeze it. And so you can hold it there without any pressure really on the material, and then give it the full pressure when you're ready to squeeze. I've seen quite a few of these imported tools or tools that have been rebuilt and sold on eBay that it's just on or off, just ka-chunk, ka-chunk. And that would be really hard to use because you're just never quite ready for it. When you can feather it up, you can get it so that it's tight on the rivet and you're holding everything still, and then give it the full squeeze as you're ready. So our squeezer kit also comes with some quick change pins. So you can just pop the pins out fairly easily and switch yokes. A lot of them come with bolts that you have to take nuts off and switch yokes and put the bolts back on. So just a couple differences as you're looking at squeezers. Different things that you can look for that can help you make a good decision buying and how they're used, understanding the tool. It's an expensive tool compared to most of the other building tools, but if you really look at it, you're probably going to spend about $300 more for a pneumatic squeezer than you will for a hand squeezer. You use it a ton. It is really quite worth it. And you can probably turn around and sell it used and get about 2/3 of your money back. So it's a tool that you spend a lot of time with. It's a joy to use. It makes the whole building process much more enjoyable. So if you have any questions, you can always email or call me. And if you'd like to look at the other accessories, we should have links on our pneumatic squeezer page at clevelandtool.com. Thank you.